It has never been harder to win than right now. Why? Because every single day, you are frying your brain. You are killing your attention span and you are killing your focus. You're killing your testosterone. And because of all of that, you are killing your success. The average person has a worse attention span than a goldfish, and that's who you're competing against. So on the good news, that means that just with the tiniest bit of discipline and work ethic, you are already ahead of 90% of people. And before we even begin, you need to understand that your ability to control your urges is directly correlated to your success or lack thereof. If you cannot control yourself, if you cannot be disciplined, you will never be successful. It is simply impossible. And that is why it's so important for you to master your urges. And all of that starts with desexualizing your brain so that you are no longer ruled by your primate brain. So today I'm gonna give you the only 6 steps you need to desexualize your brain and regain control of your life. Because it's having that very control over your mind, your body, and your life that will ultimately lead you to success. Now, here's the interesting part. Truly desexualizing your brain actually has very little to do with sex and has everything to do with something else. But I will get to that a little later in the video. So for now, let's get into it. The first step is to stop watching porn. First and foremost, you need to stop watching porn. Now listen, this may sound obvious, yet 99% of young people simply cannot stop. I would say that watching porn is by far the worst way which you sexualize your brain. And let me explain to you why. You see, the problem isn't just the amount of time that you spend watching porn. I mean, sure, if you stopped, you'd have an extra hour per week or something like that, but that's just a very minuscule side effect compared to the rest. You see, porn literally fries your brain and robs you of focus. Don't believe me? Just look at the science. There have been multiple studies that link porn usage to the erosion of your prefrontal cortex. You know, that part of your brain that regulates your emotions, your actions, and more importantly, your impulse control and willpower. But that is just the tip of the iceberg. There is a laundry list of negative side effects that have been linked to porn use. Why? Because porn use has similar effects on the brain as substance abuse. Porn has been linked to issues like decreased focus and increased anxiety and depression. Now, as if these problems weren't big enough, porn has also been linked to trouble in long-term relationships and, of course, impotency. In fact, there is an epidemic of young men who are experiencing sexual issues like erectile dysfunction because their brain has been rewired. It's unfortunate because these young men have consumed so much porn that their neural pathways have literally changed. I mean, they've effectively trained themselves to be aroused by watching others do the deed instead of doing it themselves. And porn users even reported that they are less satisfied with their lives than their counterparts who don't watch porn. Now, the second step in desexualizing your brain goes hand in hand with quitting porn. And that is, you need to stop pleasuring yourself. Look, I understand it's addictive and I understand that it's been normalized in today's day and age, but there is nothing healthy or normal about it. And not even because the very act is so terrible as it is with porn. It's actually just because of the consequences of it. You see, every time you do it, your dopamine surges. I mean, you're pretty much signaling to your brain that you have accomplished what is supposed to be man's highest goal, to procreate. You are essentially telling your brain that you've done the most important thing you'll do all day. Now, of course, you and I both know that that's not true, but the neurons firing in your brain do not. And that is why you are rewarded for it. That is why it's cheap dopamine, because you are tricking your own brain into giving you dopamine you have not earned. And that's why your ability to focus and your ability to do hard things plummets. Because how do you think that the real world will stack up to the dopamine and other chemical releases that you're getting from doing the very thing we have been evolutionarily designed to do? Well, the answer is, it won't stack up at all. I mean, no wonder you can't focus when your dopamine receptors are so fried. This is why you can't focus. I mean, listen, of course everything else will feel boring when you've just done the dirty business. And this is why you need to stop. So you ask yourself, why do so many young men keep doing it? Because they are addicted. They are addicted to cheap dopamine in the exact same way that people get addicted to drugs. I mean, in fact, porn and masturbation are the most difficult addictions to break. Why? Because of the insane dopamine spike that is caused by it. So real quick, let's just look at the data. If you eat a delicious burger or some other carb-filled meal, your dopamine levels will spike by 100%. Now, if you smoke or get some other form of nicotine, your dopamine will spike by 200%. Whereas porn and masturbation boosts your dopamine by over 250%. The exact same as sex. Now, here's the key difference. Porn and masturbation will then make your dopamine levels fall way below baseline. And that's where those lethargic feelings come from after. That's the exact same dopamine curve you get from drugs. So then that really starts to beg the question, how the hell do you stop? And here is where it gets interesting. You see, an addiction to porn and masturbation isn't actually rooted in anything sexual at all. And that leads us onto the third step of how you can desexualize your brain.